In the summer of 2020, California skies turned an eerie orange, a warning color the land once knew as renewal, now a sign of disaster. Entire towns vanished under smoke. Wildlife fled in silence. Families watched homes become ashes in minutes. Wildfires today cost billions, destroy ecosystems, and claim lives each year. But here's the catch. These apocalyptic blazes are not purely natural disasters. Many are fueled by human neglect, by a century of trying to suppress every flame. Here's the twist. Before colonization, fire was not feared. It was welcomed. For thousands of years, Native Americans lit controlled burns. These small, intentional fires cleared underbrush, renewed soil, and kept forests healthy. The weird part? What modern science calls fuel load reduction. Indigenous communities practiced as cultural tradition. Imagine standing in a forest before Europeans arrived. The ground lies open, grasses sway between trees, wildlife flourishes, bison graze where fire cleared old growth. Deer browse tender shoots sprouting after flames. Birds find new nesting grounds. It looks like a park designed by experts. Yet it was indigenous firekeepers who shaped it. Then colonization struck. Settlers saw fire as destruction, not renewal. Laws banned cultural burning. Forests grew thick with dead wood, dry brush, and tangled undergrowth. The very act of protecting the land from dangerous flames planted seeds for megafires centuries later. Here's the painful irony. The suppression of fire became the cause of the most destructive fires of all. You wouldn't believe this. Historical records estimate that before colonization, as much as 4.5 million acres burned each year in California, managed by native people. Today, with suppression policies, those burns nearly vanished. Fuel built up like tinder waiting for a spark. When climate change added heat and drought, the stage was set for catastrophe. In 2020 alone, damages topped $12 billion. But here's the human cost. Whole communities now live in fear. Summers bring evacuation orders. Firefighters battle flames taller than skyscrapers. A century of policy left forests primed for catastrophe. When the climate turned harsher, consequences were inevitable. Here's the strange part. Scientists now confirm what indigenous knowledge always knew. Controlled burns create fire-resilient landscapes. Flames crawling low remove debris but spare large trees. Ash returns nutrients to soil. New plants sprout, feeding animals. Forests breathe again. It's the paradox of fire. What looks destructive is often the source of renewal. Picture elders walking the edges of grasslands, torches in hand, humming old songs as flames lick the ground, burning not to destroy but to heal. Yet the story is not only ecological, it's cultural. For native people, fire was ceremony, teacher, and ally. To light a burn was to speak with the land, to keep balance between humans and nature. Suppressing fire wasn't just ecological harm, it was an assault on identity, stripping tribes of their role as caretakers, their place as guardians of balance. And here's the cliffhanger. What once was dismissed as ritual may be our best hope against today's infernos, if we choose to listen before the next summer burns. To see why native fire was never chaos but wisdom, you need to look at how it worked. Here's the catch. Controlled burns don't scorch forests into wastelands. They sculpt landscapes into resilient ecosystems. Take the oak woodlands of California. When native people lit fires there, flames move low and steady, clearing brush without killing mature trees. Ash fertilizes the soil. Within weeks, shoots of fresh grass push up, drawing deer, elk, and small game. Birds follow, feeding on insects stirred by fire. What looks like destruction is really design. Here's the twist. This design is not random. Native people time burns with precision. Some light fires in late fall, when rains soon follow to dampen flames. Others burn in early spring, clearing fields before planting. Fire becomes a seasonal partner, as much a part of the calendar as planting or harvest. You wouldn't believe this, Modern ecologists now confirm these practices mirror what we call adaptive management. Instead of rigid rules, native fire keepers read signals from nature, soil moisture, shifting winds, migrating animals. They adjust burns accordingly. In other words, the land itself is the guidebook. Here's the unexpected link. Fire is medicine, not only for plants and animals, but for people. Certain burns encourage growth of berries, seeds, and tubers rich in nutrients. Others clear land for hunting or open paths for travel. The Karuk in Northern California, for instance, use fire to renew tanoac groves, ensuring steady acorn harvests. For them, fire means food security. Science today echoes this. Studies suggest low-intensity burns reduce invasive grass spread by up to 60% in field plots. They recycle nutrients and even prevent pests that devastate crops. Fire, used with skill, functions like a natural reset button, restoring balance rather than destroying it. And here's the deeper insight. Controlled burns also build climate resilience. By reducing fuel loads, they prevent megafires. By renewing grasses, they boost biodiversity. By maintaining open forests, they cool landscapes. They also improve water cycles. Field data indicate that burned watersheds often store more water than those left untouched. Picture this: trained firekeepers walking through oak groves. They light small, patient burns. Smoke drifts thin across the horizon, carried by calm wind. The ground is damp from recent rain, flames curling low, leaving behind fertile ash. This is not chaos, it is choreography. But here's the strange part. When cultural burns were banned, we didn't just lose a land management tool. We lost a worldview. Native fire was never about control for profit. It was about relationship, reciprocity, and respect. To light a fire was to enter a dialogue with earth, air, and ancestors. And that's the aha moment. Fire is not always an enemy. In the hands of indigenous knowledge, it is a healer, a gardener, even a teacher, showing us that survival sometimes means partnership, not conquest. So the question becomes, what were the tools and techniques that made this knowledge work? How did native communities shape flames into allies instead of threats? That's where our story moves next. If the insight revealed fire as medicine, the next question is simple. How did Native Americans turn flames into allies? Here's the catch. Controlled burning was not guesswork. It was a craft refined over millennia, passed down from elders to firekeepers. One essential practice was timing. Fires were not lit at random, but at precise moments in the seasonal cycle. Many tribes waited for early spring, when grasses were dry but the soil still held winter moisture. Others chose late fall, after harvests, when rains would soon return. Here's the twist. This timing acted like a natural fire break. Moisture in soil and air kept flames low, preventing runaway burns. Another method was scale. Burns were small and deliberate, sometimes no larger than a meadow or grove. Firekeepers walked the perimeter with torches made from pitchwood or resin, circling carefully to guide flames inward. Archaeological evidence shows blackened soil rings across ancient landscapes, proof that controlled burns left signatures still visible today. Then came technique. Fire was laid in patterns. Strip burns along a slope, patch burns in meadows, ring burns around clearings. Each pattern served a purpose. Patch burns encouraged diverse regrowth, feeding both animals and people. Ring burns created protective zones around villages, halting wildfires before they reached homes. On windy slopes, strip burns crept downhill like glowing threads, eating fuel in narrow lines instead of racing as a wall of flame. Here's the strange part. Knowledge itself was the sharpest tool. Firekeepers read smoke the way sailors read clouds. Thin, white smoke meant a clean burn. Thick, black smoke signaled danger. Wind direction dictated where torches were placed. Humidity determined how much fuel would catch. Some elders tested soil by touch, kneeling and pressing earth between fingers to judge if flames would travel or settle. Science today calls this field data. For native firekeepers, it was lived intuition. Materials shaped the craft further. Bundles of dried sage or pine resin served as quick-start torches. Water in clay vessels cooled edges. Bare earth or sand was scraped into lines to stop advancing flames. Every resource had its place. And here's the unexpected element: community itself. Burns were rarely done alone. Families, even entire villages joined in. Children cleared edges, women carried water, men guided flames. Elders taught youngsters how to read the breeze and place the first spark. Songs and prayers rose with the smoke, weaving spiritual intent into practical action. Picture this: a circle of people moving together, torches glowing, voices steady, fire answering with a low, steady crawl. The ecological outcomes were just as deliberate. Burns cultivated hazel for basketry, willow for traps, beargrass for weaving, and camas for food. Berry patches thrived. Strawberries, huckleberries, blueberries flourished once fire cleared the competition. Here's the twist: what looked like wild abundance was, in fact, cultural design. Even animals became part of the system. Mosaic landscapes, patches burned beside untouched groves, drew deer to graze, birds to nest, bison to return. Predators followed, balancing the chain of life. You wouldn't believe this. Scientists studying indigenous fire landscapes in Australia and North America found striking results. Biodiversity ran 30 to 40% higher in areas with cultural burns than in untouched forests. The proof lies not only in oral traditions but in measurable data. So the methods of fire were not axes or hoses. They were timing, patterns, resources, and relationships. Together, these shaped a science of balance, long before modern fire management was written. And that sets up the next part of our story: behavior. How were these practices lived day after day, woven into the routines of families and tribes? What did it look like to grow up in a culture where fire was a friend instead of a fear? That's where we go next. If tools shape the fire, behavior gives it rhythm. Here's the catch: knowledge of burning means nothing if it stays abstract. It lives only in practice, carried out season after season, woven into daily life. Picture a spring morning in a native village. Families prepare for a burn. Children run ahead, clearing loose brush from the edges. Elders point out which slope should be lit first. Women carry clay jars of water, setting them near boundaries. Men gather pine resin torches, their tips dark with pitch. The burn is not chaos. It is choreography, rehearsed countless times before. Here's the twist: setting a fire is as ordinary as planting corn or repairing lodges. It is work, but also ritual. Before flames touch the ground, prayers are spoken. Songs drift across the grass. For many tribes, the first spark is an offering, an acknowledgement that fire is both dangerous and sacred, ally and teacher. Controlled burns are quick. Within 30 to 60 minutes, a meadow is cleared. Flames move low, crackling across old grass, leaving black soil ready for renewal. Families watch carefully. If wind shifts, edges are doused with water or smothered with dirt. If flames crawl too high, branches beat them back. Children learn early. Fire listens to those who pay attention. And here's the strange part: burning isn't always stationary. Entire communities practice pack, move, burn, reset. They carry fire knowledge with them when they move camps. A new meadow is not simply settled. It is tended, cleared, and renewed. Fire makes travel routes easier, camps safer, and hunting grounds more productive. Daily habits grow from fire. Sleeping arrangements shift around cleared areas. By sleeping closer to open ground, families stay warmer with less wood, an early form of energy efficiency. Food gathering follows fire cycles too. After a burn, people return weeks later to harvest berries, roots, or game drawn to the tender regrowth. You wouldn't believe this. Ethnographic records describe hunters positioning themselves at the edge of freshly burned land. Deer and elk, hungry for new shoots, walked straight into bow range. Fire doesn't just protect, It feeds. Here's the unexpected link: responsibility. Burns aren't random acts but duties. Specific families or clans hold the role of firekeepers. Children are taught from early age how to watch clouds, feel soil, and test the air before lighting a flame. Elders correct mistakes patiently, passing on not just technique but the ethic of care for the land. Seasonality shapes behavior. In dry summers, burns are rare, sometimes forbidden. In wetter years, fire returns more often. Communities adjust like musicians, following nature's tempo. Some tribes even use fire to mark seasonal ceremonies, the smoke rising as both land renewal and spiritual signal. And here's the deeper part. These practices create social bonds. Working together on a burn teaches cooperation and trust. Everyone has a role, from the youngest child carrying sticks to the eldest setting the first spark. Fire becomes a classroom. Lessons aren't written in books, they are etched in the soil, sung in smoke, and lived in muscle memory. Imagine this. Night falls after a day of burning. The meadow is blackened, still warm. Families sit nearby, sharing roasted food while embers glow. Children fall asleep to the faint crackle of dying flames. Tomorrow, new green will emerge. The cycle is complete. Guided, instead of battled, fire transforms landscapes and in return transforms the people. The rewards of that partnership are what we explore next. If behavior showed how fire was lived, benefits reveal why it matters so deeply. Here's the catch: controlled burns are never wasted effort. Every spark returns something to the people and the land. The most obvious benefit is safety. By reducing brush and fuel, small fires prevent catastrophic ones. Historical records suggest regions managed with cultural burns rarely suffered the towering infernos we see today. Forests stay open, paths remain clear, villages are safer. Modern research echoes this. Landscapes treated with low-intensity burns withstand wildfires that destroy neighboring areas. Here's the twist. Fire doesn't just reduce risk, it creates abundance. Burned meadows turn into grazing grounds for deer, elk, and bison. Fresh shoots sprout for roots and berries. Some plants even require fire to germinate. Blueberries, camas, and lodgepole pine all thrive after flames. What looks like destruction is, in fact, renewal. Food security follows. Families harvest acorns from tamarack groves renewed by fire. Berries grow sweeter in freshly cleared patches. Game animals return to huntable numbers. You wouldn't believe this. Archaeologists studying ancient fire sites found pollen layers proving that certain plants appeared more consistently after centuries of intentional burning. Health and comfort come next. Sleeping near cleared ground means less wood is needed for warmth, a quiet form of energy efficiency. For communities with limited fuel wood, this means less labor hauling logs through winter. Smoke from cultural burns reduces pests like ticks and mosquitoes, protecting both people and livestock. Ash enriches soil, boosting yields of cultivated plants. Fire is not just survival, it is well-being. Here's the deeper benefit. Fire strengthens communities. Burns bring families together, giving each member a role. The process teaches cooperation, patience, and humility before nature. Working with fire is working with each other. In that sense, controlled burning is as much social glue as ecological care. The cultural benefits are inseparable from the practical ones. Fire reinforces identity, ceremony, and respect for ancestors. It gives people a living classroom where science, spirituality, and survival meet. For native nations, fire is proof that balance with the land is possible and necessary. Modern science now catches up. Studies suggest cultural burning can cut wildfire severity by 40 to 60%. It also boosts biodiversity and helps restore habitats for endangered species. What indigenous peoples know through practice, researchers now confirm through data. So the benefits are clear: safety, abundance, health, and community. Guided fire gives more than it ever takes, leaving behind healthier land and a stronger sense of belonging. And that leads to the final message. Beyond science, beyond numbers, What does fire mean as culture, as legacy, as survival itself? That's the story we close with next. Across centuries, fire has been called many names: destroyer, danger, disaster. But here's the truth: Native Americans knew another name. To them, fire was a relative, a teacher, a partner in survival. What settlers tried to suppress as chaos, indigenous communities embraced as balance. The painful irony is that when colonization banned cultural burning, it wasn't only forests that grew crowded with fuel. Cultures were crowded with silence. Communities were stripped of their role as firekeepers, their identity as guardians of balance pushed aside. Yet the knowledge never fully vanished. It smoldered like embers under ash, kept alive in stories, ceremonies, and the quiet memory of elders. And here's the twist. Today, as megafires consume the West, science circles back to what Native people always knew. Agencies once dedicated to suppressing flames now invite tribes to lead prescribed burns. Wisdom once dismissed as superstition now carries the weight of climate policy. What was nearly erased has become essential for the future. Picture this: firefighters and tribal firekeepers standing shoulder to shoulder. Torches in hand, they walk lines through a forest. Thin smoke drifts into the sky. The earth, blackened but breathing, begins to renew. It is ceremony and science, tradition and technology, woven together in flames that heal instead of destroy. Here's the deeper message: controlled fire is not only about ecology, it is about identity. To light a burn is to honor ancestors who sang to flames. It is to teach children that respect is stronger than fear. It is to remember that humanity's survival has always depended on partnership with nature, not conquest over it. And here's the lasting call: this is not just a native story, it is a human story. We all live in a time when climate threatens our homes, our food, and our future. If we choose to listen, indigenous fire science offers a path forward, a path that shows renewal is possible even after destruction. So let this be the takeaway. Guided fire gives more than it ever takes. It leaves behind healthier land, stronger communities, and enduring wisdom. The next chapter is ours to write, whether we ignore that wisdom or finally walk beside it. The flames will come. The choice is ours, whether they burn against us or burn with